I found it on, reading. I do believe so. That was something. I think I got it. Okay.
Good morning. Yeah.
Thank you.
One step in the front. Same plate? Yeah.
No. That's
I don't believe so, but I can get it right now.
Good morning.
I'm okay. I'm almost finished my thing, but already worked.
Was that why
oh,
I would have been extremely upset and
yeah, it would have been very. Very. How? I'm about to drop on play music. No, with the senator.
and I'll be out of the way.
Where do you want me to sit over here? Okay. Yeah, yeah. Yep, yep.
Found it. Huh? Found a credit. You're on. The barrel. Perfect.
Thank you.
I can take this NC down here, Bree. I can take the NC.
Usually this-
I gotta figure out how to. Where is Rep Marcel? That makes. Yeah, Pop it out. All of them. Bring you're over here. Brian does not.
We're gonna meet the second. Okay, you can go to the next.
I'm gonna. Where?
That's how.
Yeah, that's fine.
Right here.
Yeah, okay. Just,
Where's my studio? One of them's over there. Nick. Yeah. Here.
you can use it.
Sit down. Mark. Mark.
I think it wasn't working. And signed in.
you have the same setting for account.
Yeah.
So it had to show it on. Here, I'll move, you know, do it here.
Right, yeah.
Okay, so I just, you know, the students, right? Okay. No,
Pull up that email. Here.
This is. Go ahead.
You pull up the one. Dr. All right. You need to do something? Won't move things.
You just slide them down. That's what I'm saying, just move them down when you're still here by them.
Free, do you need a Zoom link? You have to- Chris said all he needs is a YouTube link. That's going, and you potentially you are out. Y'all not doing anything, and nobody else is coming in. It's live streaming now. He's already posting that. Okay. Okay. Here's Beth. Thanks, Lev.
Put that in.
If you need, you can move downstairs, I have to be in the corner because we have a space. Huh? But I was gonna slide it down so that they don't have to crunch up in their space if we have the issue. So I just said I'm here. Right here to my hand. You wanna put me? Or there's. Martha.
can use probably.
But it- but
I have. I have an all of it, okay. So I'll turn Greg towards that. Remember, I'll just bring towards that move.
Well,
I'm trying to make sure I'm not.
well.
There you go.
Well, we put this.
Cut through the noise, the first one, but just.
Good.
How much? There's one on the wall over there.
Or city, right?
They do. Personal fire. Perfect.
Yes.
These cases like right there, like with this one is funny because Louis. That's why that's why it's like. I've heard about that.
Right, that's like all the stuff right. Good morning.
Okay, I was like, all right. I just want something like.
Then y'all get out.
So are you on the panel? Or- So I think. Because that part's gonna be a separate, I think she has all of the students on the actual panel, on the task force. Morning.
Great, how about you? Thank you.
Uh,
Okay.
Yeah. They're still very incomplete. Right now, I can literally squat, whatever. Squat.
Any task force member have to sign it, if you're not on part of, a member on the task. Force, I get it. Okay. One quick announcement, if you're a student participating in the panel, but you're not on the task force, please have a seat in the chairs by the window. Wait, how do they have a? No. Three. Yes. Yeah.
Oh, it did, yeah.
You know what?
Five.
On here.
Yeah.
What we gonna-
Yeah, I hear you.
Which one is? What's the discussion? One, four.
I'll be out of my.
Probably worse than Chris. Chris and I work with. Chris. Oh, oh, for the weight.
No, I'm about to get up.
Oh, no, 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 no. This is not, I just didn't want to touch it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, wait. Yes. Everybody over here, I asked. Oh. Yeah. I would.
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. That should be good then. Right, you. Okay, okay. All right, I'll put the clicker.
Oh, you sit right here.
Okay, that's good. I got the mic on. Thank y'all very much.
Thank you so much.
Oh, no, these aren't. This is my quiet
No,
time.
they're good. They're good.
Doing our policy, or they found policies.
My in your.
Fire. Bring home.
I don't know, Paul. Thank you.
Right, you got one.
Oh, you know what? I bet you.
Oh.
Student member.
Not really.
You can come up.
That was you.
But I didn't know
Very
that.
good to meet you. I'm so glad you're here.
On Facebook or something.
Cindy does it for me.
Oh, does it
so,
for you? Well, she's
yeah.
been working overtime. Although now.
Well, I'll tell you who's been working overtime
You.
is Dixon.
Oh, Dixon,
I mean-
that is a fact. He does. He's gotta have some sort of AI generator just pumping them out. for him. But it's good to see you.
Well.
He tries, I just follow him around like a bag full.
Right,
That's not the fact at all. We just talk about golf. That's right.
You got it?
Lori has replaced me. Lori replaced,
You replaced?
well, I replaced me with Lori.
Are you?
Oh, look, you know, you looking around. So I just got off my phone. Yeah. You have the Zoom information? Or the- No, yes, you know. Yeah, yeah. I'm good. You already.
Come on, I saw you over there. I'm good. How are you doing?
Gotta tell you.
Oh, okay. No,
Uh,
yeah.
I went to.
So what day are you going?
So today, hey, my sergeant.
Windows.
Okay,
Gotta-
that's what I'm doing.
Okay.
Me too.
That was my gate was right here. That was the car.
Yeah,
That's what I'm gonna do. Okay. Okay, all right.
No, but I'm pretending like we were just, Freiberg and I were just very stable.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
When is it?
I
I
mean,
mean, it's not Thursday.
Yes. Thursday, I think. Next
Oh.
week, the select committee.
The
Yeah.
week- The week before session?
Yeah, the Thursday before
I
that.
probably.
Oh,
Budget.
Oh, okay. Yes. Okay. So is she like walking in? Okay. Girl, you gonna live a long time.
Taylor, you definitely. Hi, Mom.
I would absolutely not do that. I could not allow anything to happen. I'm going to cry.
Our new, are you from that? Florida?
Where you going?
Oh, you,
When? Oh, tomorrow.
So I.
I have to wear- I have to wear this, but I-
And so.
oh, well, I mean, you bring stuff.
Yeah.
Free. Proxy for him. Proxy for him.
Yes.
How are you?
Okay.
This is one of
This is kind of pretty, this is leather.
Well, that's it.
And,
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it.
Nice.
Nope.
Well,
Me.
that's okay.
We have a. Oh, so I just speak. There's no. Oh, yeah, y'all real fancy. Good morning, everyone.
Good to see your faces. Bit of a little box.
We are preparing to start the Power-Based Violence Review Panel. Today is Monday, February 23rd. It's 10:04 a.m. We are going to officially call the meeting to order. I would remind everyone that if you have a phone call or if you need to take a call, please step outside the room to take the call. I'm asking everyone to please place their phone on mute. And at this time, we are going to call the meeting to order and call roll. Will you please call roll for us, Ms. Brianna?
Yes, ma'am, Senator Barrow. Miss Marion. Miss Marion.
Sorry.
Present. Mr. Bath.
Here.
Mr. Manuel.
Here.
Dr. Blair. Senator Mizell.
Here.
Ms. Williams.
Present.
Blush. Ms. Laborde. Ms. Dupuy. Ms. Lamondre.
Here.
Mr. Gomez.
Here.
Mr. Walker. Ms. Massey. Ms. Gates. Rep. Freiberg. Here. Rep. Marcel. Here. Mrs. Zarang. Mr. Castro.
Here.
Yeah, quorum.
Okay. We have a quorum. I believe we have 15 members present and a quorum. You should have received a copy of the minutes. May I receive a motion to approve the minutes? Moved by Senator Mizell, second by Representative Marcel. Thank you very much. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay. All right. Again, welcome everybody to our Power-Based Violence Review Panel. We are right upon the heels of session starting, and I know that there are a few items that we would like to address before session begin, and I believe that there are going to be some actually proposed legislation that is going to come forth as a result of this. I would like to also extend thanks to the Board of Regents for organizing the meeting and welcome any new members to the task force. And I'm going to ask you right now if you would please introduce yourself. Do you have any new members? That's right. Welcome aboard.
Happy to be here.
All right. Yeah, both of you guys, would y'all just please introduce yourselves and just tell us the capacity by which you now join? And we would like to welcome both of you ladies aboard. Again, they are a part of the newly formed House Select Committee on Women and Children, and we're glad to have you here. Also, I think we have joining by phone Senator Katrina Jackson Andrews. I don't know if you can speak back to us. Okay, well, I do know that she is listening to us by phone. And she is the chair of the Select Committee of Women and Children on the Senate side. All right, so let's get into our agenda items for this particular meeting. I would like to take a moment to reflect on the work of the Power-Based Violence Panel Commission and panel. Again, I would like to thank everybody who have been engaged over the past year. I think we have definitely made a lot of great strides, and I am looking forward to proposed legislation that we will be bringing forth this year. And again, I'd just like to thank everybody for your work, for your involvement, for your attention to the issues, how we've heard from stakeholders from across the system who are deeply committed to the prevention and accountability. This work matters. It reflects our shared responsibility to strengthening campuses, safety, to ensure our policies and practices truly serve and protect our students. And I'm grateful for the time, expertise, collaboration that each member has contributed throughout this process. At this time, I would like to invite Ms. Bree Golden Phillips. I'm trying to get used to the last name now. She's been married over a year, I know for sure, to provide an overview of the panel's work and present the key findings, components of the report.
Thank you, sir. And right now, I just kind of wanted to give a overview of all the work that with audience here, whether it's a good time to kind of reflect on what the purpose of doing the types of things that we engage in, right? So that this panel is an advisory panel, the institution, where we discuss and evaluate policy practices and support the technical assistance in identifying and our last trend of artificially created sexualized, right? This is what this panel is for, to discuss things that come up in the Title IX Department of Violence State. And so when we look at the things that this has been able to do since 2021, I want to say here, with the exception of last year, collaboration, discussion, systems, been able to produce and create legislation authored by Senator Barrow to advance the work forward and make sure it's getting done. So just kind of a reminder that established that the review panel does an annual report. It expanded reporting to both the House, the Senate Select Committee on Women and Children, in addition to the House Committee on Women and Children. It added Title IX coordinators from systems already had system representation, but through additional conversations, we were able to add one more Title IX coordinator from the system. That is the first year that the senators were able to lobby to get $5 million for in-state funding for campuses. In additional impact areas, this is what we were able to host a 50th anniversary of Title IX. Title IX statutes were established in 1970, so we had a celebration. Many institutes were able to participate in. And then that was the first year that we were able to develop and implement the training. And I will say, you will see in the record. Okay. Hi. Now the people on YouTube can hear. And I will note that later on, I'll discuss the additional training updates that we will work on with the public post-secondary system. In 2023, we had a discussion on this panel, and a couple of the systems were talking about how difficult it was to get MOU enforcement and communication with those local law enforcement agencies. Through this panel, Senator Barrow authored legislation to have strengthened and enhanced MOU enforcement, some additional impact areas through that Title IX funding. And I will say we are working on updating the website, but we were able to start a power-based violence website and resource hub on the Louisiana Board of Regents website. That year, we also facilitated a discussion with the Council of Student Body Presidents. And of course, it's very timely that we have a lot of students here who you will hear from towards the end of the agenda. So we wanted to give them a lot more time. So that's why I'm going to fly through this. And then that's the year that we started doing campus safety assessments through NCBRT, which is housed on LSU's campus. And the legislature has been allocating $1 million since 2023. Again, in 2024, another piece of legislation was passed We were able to update annual training and reporting deadlines, again, through constant discussion with the systems. That was something that they indicated that was a need. Senator Farrell authored that legislation. In an additional impact area, thank you to Ms. Monica Taylor. She invited several of us to go engage with the Louisiana Chiefs of Police conference. And I don't know if you want to speak to that real quick. I know we were able to make two, one in Marksville and one in Alexandria.
So we did training to the chiefs of police. The first time we did it, it was just to the chiefs who had universities or systems in their jurisdictions. And then they invited us back to speak to the collective, so everybody could hear it. And that worked really, really well. And I just want to add something else along those same lines. Laurie Marion and I, who's the director of women's policy for the governor's office, Laurie and I just got back from Northwestern University. They invited us to go there and do a training, the intersectionality of Title IX in law enforcement, which I have done at least once on every single campus in the state, which I'm excited about. Every campus has received that. The Northwestern one was very well attended, people from different student and great engagements. But we had the district attorney was there himself. He stayed the whole time. The chief of police from the city, along with a couple of his officers, and the chief of police from the university, as well as all of the Title IX people. And we're currently working with the Southern University system to go back on their campus, all of their campuses, and do that presentation there. So it's a training that our office developed. Laurie is currently learning the training, which I think she will be very valuable to people. She has a background in domestic violence, and she is an attorney, and so I think she will be doing a great job moving forward.
We appreciate the constant collaboration and communication with the governor's office. So thank you so much for that. And then lastly, in 2025, we initiated at the last Power-Based Violence Review Panel meeting, we initiated that discussion about AI-generated unlawful deepfakes. And also, our office frequently and still continues to communicate with the systems to talk about internal discussions on how can we begin to update those trainings now that we have had, I want to say 5 years of implementation now. The training needs some serious updating now that the campuses have put a lot of things into practice. They talked about things that have worked well, that have not worked well, and things that need updating and development. So I just wanted to go over some of the highlights. That's something that Senator Barrow asked at the last meeting to talk about the work that this review panel has done. And so I want to say out of the 5 years we've been in existence, we've gotten 4 pieces of legislation passed. And everybody will get a copy of the slide deck.
Thank
Bree, can I, real quick, also at that Northwestern meeting, the DA that was there, he asked if this was a presentation that could be done at the police association. And so we told him absolutely yes. And so just waiting to see if they schedule us to come and do that for the DA as well. Yeah.
Now to the fun stuff, the overview of the 2025 Power-Based Violence Report. I will say that the report will be finalized and sent to you with a due date of February the 28th. So we're still doing additional groupings of numbers, but I did want to discuss some key highlights that we found so far. Okay, the 2025 training completion. Overall, there's 34,359 employees that have been reported by the public post-secondary systems, and they're in Global at a 94% training completion rate. And when you look at the individual campuses, I want to say the blue is the total number of employees at that institution, and the orange is the rate of completion. So when you break it down, I want to say all of the public post-secondary systems, with the exception of one, they're at over 90% completion. The Southern University system is at 80% completion.
What percent?
80%. When we talk about trained confidential advisors, there have been 200 individuals who have been designated as confidential advisors that they are at 100% completion, training completion rate. When we talk about the reported number of incidents, our office has accounted for 119 filed formal complaints across the public post-secondary systems. And I want to say this information has been from data collected from October 2024 to September 2025. So as you all know, twice a year, each institution has to upload the number of filed formal complaints on October the 10th and April 10th. And so when we segmented those into the April 10th data submission, it was a total of 58 complaints received. And then in October data submission, 61 complaints received. So from that time period from October 2024 to September 2025, both of those accumulate to 119 filed formal complaints across all four public post-secondary systems. But
And, you know, been probably, I think I've been at every meeting or close, okay, so I should know that. But what is the difference between, formal complaint and the initial? At what point does? Yeah, like when does the report become a formal?
Great question. We get that not just from this. The answer to that really is, it becomes a formal complaint. That can be immediately on the initial reporting period, or it can be over the course. Sometimes they have to contemplate what that, we talked about for years, how intimidating the process. They toy with our students largely. So the time also. So the answer really is individual. It can be in it. Have people disengage and re-engage. Can be over. They might say, "Not ready for this," and then a month later. So it really just.
Because I think what those are all, because the idea that, okay, what could we have done differently that may have given more closure in the report to that.
And sometimes they want, sometimes they want something as simple as an, sometimes they want a supportive measure where they don't interact face to face. And so we really have that interaction. Try to action desires of what's best. What does that mean? In a person.
Because to me, the role you are is beyond the report of an individual. You're creating. And what's not. So I'm just hoping that the report doesn't. Excuse me. That there's some awareness of this could be better. This area of campus is, we're getting all these reports that may never rise. But that's a hot.
And sometimes, your point, in the interaction between the tabernacle coordinator and the complainant, if the alleged conduct is so egregious, the tabernacle coordinator decides they think it's serious enough to file, they have that option also to sign a formal complaint, taking into consideration what that might be, and the ability to move the case. Should that?
Wow.
I think there are several options there. And to your point about culture, I think it's important. After the power-based violence passed and after regulation, Title IX were passed, we saw, at least in our system, exponential. So at the very least, have that makes students
So it puts the power base, but it puts the power back in the hands of the survivor to decide rather than the complacency of survivors are out there and we're not engaged. Thank you.
Maybe preempting your next slide, but do we know per system what the complaints, how many complaints per system, and then also what the resolution?
Well, I'll hold my question until I see that.
Filed formal complaint. This is what it looks like per system. And some of the key highlights that we have in right now, still formalizing numbers and grouping. So right now we have added up that there are 18 findings of responsibility for these filed formal complaints. Right now there are around findings, and there have been around 17 transfers to other offices. So right now we're still working on the groupings, but what the data has been showing so far, and we will get these completed numbers to by the submission date, is that a number of instances have resulted in where complainants completely withdraw from the process. There have been some unsubstantiated claims of the filed reports, meaning that there may have been insufficient evidence to move forward. A lot of those individuals, respondents, or those who may be categorized as staff have withdrawn from the institution or been terminated. And a lot of these complaints have resulted in informal resolutions and supportive measures, meaning, yes, ma'am. Yes, there are some instances in some of the systems where an employee was terminated. The way the data shows us, it may have been a result of the complaint that was filed.
So, because that's my question, I would like to see how that's going to be categorized. Like, will we be able to tell what happened, especially those that dropped out, that dropped out?
Yes.
I would definitely like to see why they actually disengaged or dropped out.
That is the information that we're sorting
Okay.
through right now to make sure we accurately categorize, because there is an instance where a complainant may have withdrawn from the process and withdrawn their complaint, but at the same time, the respondent also in the same instance may have dropped out of the university as well. So that's why we're making sure we're accurately put these instances in the correct category.
I also agree with the idea of having an idea of how many of these are withdrawn and why, because I think that could be a teaching moment in itself. Because if we know one thing is that survivors so many times feel revictimization through the process that they have to go through. So if we have a really large number of individuals that are withdrawing, it may be shining a light on the system and the process itself, because it may be too difficult or too re-traumatizing.
That's what I want to know. That part right there. Because that's what we heard during the tour, why some of the individuals decided to disengage because it was too difficult to go through. And I want to see if that is still an issue.
Because I can tell you in the work we do, that systems-based issue is a really big problem for survivors. Why we have so many survivors that don't report, so many survivors that disengage, because the systems that are in place, I'm not saying that there's not good intention behind it. I'm just saying that sometimes it's just so hard to navigate, and there's just it's just difficult to survive.
And I think one of the important things, one of the things that I talk about when I do the trainings that I think is important to think about is that don't think about Title IX as similar to our criminal justice system, in the sense of like these are criminal charges, but if you think about it more like civil. And so, because that's really, this is more of a civil case than criminal case. And so a civil case have a lot more outcomes than a criminal case has. And so I think that has been helpful when I'm talking to law enforcement and prosecutors and people who engage students, when they think of it more in the terms of a civil case than a criminal case.
And I do want to open it up to any systems who may have a little bit of, insight as to the reported instances where an employee did terminated or a respondent did withdraw, kind of speaking to some of the possible reasons as to why that may be, if any systems would like to chime in.
So I know that we, other, employees that were terminated, from my understanding, from our HR, terminated for other reasons. And so it was no longer at the university. But, so that's kind of why that process stopped.
So if y'all speak closer to these boxes, it is a microphone. And then whoever is online can hear you as well, but then you can tell it amplifies my voice as well. So I'm loud, I don't need it, but some people are soft.
I'm glad you said that. Okay, will you say that again? Because I didn't hear everything that you said.
Yes, ma'am. So for Southern, some of our employees that were terminated for other reasons, according to my HR department. So they may have had other performance or discipline issues that were happening at the same time that we got this complaint. So they ended up being already in the process to be terminated. So that's kind of where some of those that happen, I know for us.
So that means the how it's categorized will not actually indicate that it was as a result of some power-based violence issue. It may be listed as disciplinary factor.
Yes, ma'am, for something that was unrelated to the actual complaint.
So kind of to what Jeremiah was saying, and which is why we're taking our time putting it in the correct category. In his instance, for example, that was transferred to HR because Jeremiah shared in previous meetings, we encourage our individuals, if you don't know where to go, just come to us and we'll help you along the way because this is a very strenuous process. As his office may transfer out to other appropriate offices where someone files a complaint and it might go to student affairs, it might stay with the Title IX office, or it may get transferred to HR, then you have that additional subcategory where an employee may be terminated as a result of maybe that instance of power-based violence or Title IX, or something unrelated that might have just added on to their file and it might have just been, I would say, the final straw. So that's one of the reasons why we're making sure we appropriately put it into a categorized box.
Last time, I will raise my hand. Promise you.
No, don't say that. We don't want you to be.
I mean, like, just from this view, sitting right here in this chair, doing the work that I do, the fact that there's only 20 formal complaints in the entire LSU system, kind of like, that would tell me that that process to do the complaint maybe is flawed, because you're not going to tell me that with dependency. I mean, it's odd to me that dependency having an LSU system versus, let's look at the other systems. They have the lowest amount of complaints out of all the. That's kind of a red flag.
I definitely don't want to speak for the LSU system, but I think one of the good parts about this student voices discussion, we could hear straight from the individuals that we serve. How do they feel about the process altogether? And maybe that will help with additional key insight on how they feel about the nuances of the reporting process. And that was one of the reasons why Senator Barrow wanted to have it on the agenda today. But you're more than welcome to keep asking questions. That doesn't have.
That's
one. Any more questions about this slide? And with that, after having additional conversations with the systems, and of course, this is open to the panel as well, we have come up with some legislative and programmatic recommendations. One definitely is to make sure that unlawful deepfakes and AI-generated sexual imagery, which is already nested in the criminal code, is also included as a form of power-based violence. As you already know, the power-based violence statute lists out an expansive list of conduct that results in power-based violence, which is, dating, stalking, dating violence, coercion, additional things. And we wanted to just add, with the discussion that we had last meeting in December, the unlawful deepfake and AI-generated sexual image. So if a student creates a sexualized deepfake, they can be reported to the Title IX office for that. Yes.
Does it include high school? K-12, basically?
It's only relevant for colleges and universities because that's what the power-based violence statute only impacts. It only addresses public post-secondary institutions.
No, it's not. But I plan to bring something for actual school for K through 12.
But this is just for our public colleges and
Because
universities.
we know.
Yeah. Yeah. Beyond.
And then the programmatic recommendation, of course, I've talked to this I talked about this earlier as well. We need to update those trainings with 5 years of implementation. We've heard back from our systems. We're hearing now, especially, and we have heard for the past years from our victim advocates organizations, as well as the legislators on here, that there are some things that need to be addressed, especially as it relates to training, and make sure that we have a more comprehensive and stronger training. So that is something that we definitely will be revisiting. That part does not require legislation. It just requires additional working groups. And I definitely want to make sure that we continue to engage with the governor's office on this. Monica has already spoken to the trainings that she's done. And so we definitely want to engage with her and Lori on what they see on the campuses as a result of the trainings that they conducted. Also, and she's not here, Miss Natalie Laborde with the Attorney General's office. The current statute says that especially in the beginning, and we have done that because Monica used to work for the Attorney General's office, we're supposed to develop this training and update it in coordination with them. And so I want to make sure that I integrate Natalie into this process and so that she could give her perspective as an assistant attorney general on this training. So there will be updated training.
And I do want to mention, can everybody hear me? I do want to mention that I am still not extremely pleased with the training on the university campuses. And I don't know why. Maybe at the end or when we finish everything that's on the agenda, maybe the universities can tell me why it's not 100%. I saw where one category was 100%, but none of the campuses have 100%. 90 is good. That's pretty good. But again, we need to make sure that everybody is participating in the training requirements that has been passed down through legislation, period.
Ma'am. Any other questions? That was it.
I think one of the things that has been done that is moving in a positive direction, right? Start with something positive, is that the systems are really doing a good job of, meeting some fairly good numbers, 94% completion of people trained in the online training, 100% of the confidential advisors being trained. Those are good numbers for the system, as a whole, to just train. And then, like I said, all of the police departments and Title IX departments have engaged us to come on and do those trainings and are continuing to engage us, right? So like they're getting us to come back and do it, and they are including people who have a lot of student interaction. I think one of the big pieces that maybe is missing, in my opinion, and I don't know how to get there because it is going to be difficult to do because you're talking about a large number of people, is how do we correctly inform the students of what their rights are and inform them on how to engage with Title IX and what that process looks like if they have a problem. I feel like that's some of where the break is. I don't know the answer to that. I think that maybe some of the students will have some answers for us because I think that's the real issue, right? Is making sure the students understand. And I think, Raphael just walked out, but Morgan is still here. I think that's a problem we have in general with these issues, right? With these, in just the general population, how do they know where to go, who to engage, who to call in the criminal justice system, who to contact with. So I think that's where some of the low numbers of cases stuff make.
So am I to take from what you said that there are no mandatory seminars or work groups on every campus that would allow students to know what their rights are? So there's nothing that mandates and maybe that's where we're falling short of. There's nothing that mandates that the school host these types of, meetings to let the students know what their rights are, maybe twice a year, something. If then we might see a change in that. I don't know, I'm open to hear some.
So I know a bunch of schools, and I don't want to speak for any of the systems, but I know a bunch of the schools have done outreach campaigns on campuses and done programmatic things to try and reach as many students as possible.
I get that, but what I'm saying
There's
is,
no-
if
I
there's
don't think there's
nothing
any mandate.
mandated that they host, a seminar, whatever you want to call it, a seminar, a
Orientation,
meeting,
just include that.
an informational session on Title IX,
Orientation.
right, and your rights, then,
That is-
then you would not ever get the students all to know that. If that's a part of, it's just like the ethics training that we have to do here. If they just say, well, you know.
It's not optional.
If, yeah, it's optional, then none of us, I mean, some of us gonna do it and some of us are not gonna do it.
So I think that the system, without the legislature mandating that the systems provide this information to the students, I think the systems are doing a really good job. I don't. think it's mandated.
I know that they have to provide informational materials at the beginning of the semester, which a lot of them do for the most part.
Yeah.
But when we're talking about engagement, like a mandatory in-person training, that's not in law.
Right.
But I do know that student engagement, there are students that engage with the process in terms of, awareness events. That's something that they report out, but it's not mandated in law, but they're just provided the resource.
Yeah, I'm fully aware of that. I attended the one, that they had one at LSU, and I think Senator Barrow was there as well a couple years ago, so I get that.
Yeah.
But if there's no mass, announcement of, students can come here twice a year to get this information, then you're gonna continue to have the low numbers, because students are not gonna know how to engage. And the other problem is, if the process is so convoluted that when people get into it, they go, oh, this is really too much, then, we're really shooting ourselves in the foot. That's just my little 2 cents.
But good point. And to me, it should be a part of orientation. It could make it brief where individuals can get more information, but everybody should be introduced when they come on campus. And maybe they can speak to that. But I will say this, and I do appreciate your perspective, Monica, but it is in law that the campuses have to take the training.
Yes.
We have to take training, all of us, right? As officials, appointed, elected, etc. It is not optional. It's something we have to do. So this is not optional. It's something that they have to do, and this is what I am expecting from all of the campuses. Every employee needs to go through the training. They need to know what the processes are, because it may be, in some cases, that they don't even know when they should respond and react. So that's why they need to be engaged, and that's why they need to be trained. That's why we have the training. So, okay, and I'm not going to get on my list.
Senator, just to answer your question, so at LSU, as part of orientation, every student is required to go Title IX training.
Okay.
So it's part
Is that new?
excuse me?
Is it new?
No, it's something that we've been doing for.
How long have y'all been doing that?
At least since I have been there. I've been there since 2020.
Okay,
And
so since we started this.
yes. So
Okay, all right.
It's mandatory.
Okay,
Mandatory, and students are required to complete it as part of their use
okay,
process. And if a student doesn't include it, doesn't complete it, a notation is put on their transcript, not their transcript, in their notation is put in their record such that they can't enroll in the next semester. So it is there.
any other
All
campus
of
have
this-
that same requirement? Southern?
But Southern, it's, we don't notate if they don't do it, but at all of our orientations, our new student orientations, our Title IX coordinator or somebody from the Title IX office is there to provide the parents and the students with information on power-based violence and Title IX.
I think it may be good though to add that if they don't take it, that they can't re-enroll until they take it. Because everybody has to be accountable. Yeah.
Well, and just at LSU to add to what Todd just mentioned and what Blair just said, I think it's a critical point regarding the power of choice. One of the things that I think should be part of our conversation, not just a flat number, is what is happening as well to empower our students to make that choice to move forward or not. We do a lot of prevention work in many different areas, whether our table events or actually very specific events throughout the year that are very powerful. We have information, in many different areas. Our prevention team, for example, does a lot of case management and providing a lot of direct support for anyone that just expresses a concern. So there are elements there where we're returning this choice back to individuals that they may choose not to pursue. So the fact that we might have less than others, or others will have more, there's other factors to consider that as we move forward.
Any more statements, comments before we move over to Ms. Lamadre's presentation from STAR?
Thank
Any
you.
more questions? Over to the presentation from Lamadre with STAR.
Thank you so much, Ms. Phillips, Mrs. Phillips. Now we'll hear from Morgan Lamondre, STAR.
Is this on? Okay. So, morning, everyone. I'm Morgan Lamondre. President and CEO of STAR, which stands for Sexual Trauma Awareness and Response. We're going to have an activity today. So everyone, please get out your smartphone device, click on the QR code, and we're going to have some participation along with everyone because, everyone just likes to be lectured. I'm going to give y'all a couple of seconds to get in. At first, all of a sudden, I see all of these phones up before I said something. I'm like, great, everyone's taking pictures of me, like feeling popular. All right. Everyone about logged in? Just there's some other slides that'll have the number, but we're going to use this so that way we can have participation throughout the presentation. So I was asked by Brianna like a couple of Saturdays ago. She sent me a text and was like, can you present at the next meeting? And I was like, sure, what do you want me to present on? And she sent me this long list of items. So this is what she asked me to present on. And she said, and she'll give me up to 25 minutes to do all of this. So in order to do all of these things, I'm not going to lecture at y'all. I think that it's really important for us to kind of go over practically how everything that we're doing in this affects survivors by walking you through situations that survivors are in. So I want for us to decide for ourselves what barriers are to reporting, what process breakdowns are, and then also high-risk populations. And then obviously we've already talked about common and emerging patterns of sexual misconduct, but we're going to get into the weeds of that. So do you have to give you a content advisory? Because I do have a scenario in here and I'm going to ask somebody to read it. So just a warning, we're getting into some graphic details. Can I have anyone read the scenario? You can look at it on your phone and participate.
Taylor is a 21-year-old enrolled student. Over the course of a semester, Taylor meets other students through social events, campus organizations, and hookup apps. In at least 3 separate instances, Taylor engages in random consensual sexual activity or hookups with other enrolled students, Avery, Casey, and Jordan. Avery, Casey, and Jordan do not know each other, and have never met one another. Unknown to Avery, Casey, and Jordan, Taylor records portion of the sexual encounters using a phone. Several weeks later, Taylor begins sending messages to Avery and Jordan demanding money.
Can I have a second page? Can I get somebody else to read the second page?
The messages states that if payment is not made, Taylor will share the recordings with friends or classmates, send them to teammates or members of campus organizations, forward them to family members, post them on social media. In one instance, Taylor references the fact that Avery is not publicly out regarding their sexual orientation. In another instance, Jordan participates in a highly visible campus activity and fears reputational harm. No physical force is alleged during the encounter. The sexual activity itself was consensual, but not the recording of it. Coercion begins afterwards and is entirely digital.
One more.
Avery pays Taylor out of fear. Jordan blocks Taylor and tells no one. Casey submits an anonymous report through the campus reporting portal, but does not want to pursue a formal complaint because Casey fears being exposed during an investigation. Later, a faculty member overhears students discussing rumors that recordings exist and may be shared and notifies the Title IX office. Law enforcement has not been contacted. Assume all individuals involved are currently enrolled students at your institution.
Now, I understand that not everyone here is representing an institution, but regardless of the role you're in as policymakers or anything, I want you to answer the questions sort of with that lens of whether or not you think the institution should be responding a certain way. So we're going to go to the next question. This is where you can get your phones out and you're going to be participating by answering questions on, here we go. So you can scan it again if you need to, but can post-public secondary institutions investigate this? What's everyone thinking? 20? How many people are in here? How many people are scared? 27 now? 21, it depends. Did a lawyer answer that way? I think that's two lawyers. I'm a lawyer, so I can make fun of lawyers. Okay, well, we're not going to wait for everyone, but from everyone's perspective, why or why not can somebody investigate this?
It's part of the original statute that covers video of sexual acts and sharing it on.
What act? Power-based violence, are you talking about?
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
It's part of the power-based violence legislation that specific code of the criminal law.
So the open-ended answer to the question, why or why not? Because not everyone may want to respond verbally, but and also the specific policy language supports what specific policy language? You can also verbally say it if it's too much to type out. Is there anyone who says something different? Because if you put it depends. Nobody's gonna. Ooh, I can't. I just bought readers. Wasn't formally reported, overheard, or rumor being discussed. Okay. Yes, because of legislation in place. I cannot remember, but both our students and the campus has switched JDX. Oh, jurisdiction. I guess I should know that. I mean, I think that you have to have some ability to investigate facts, right? But the bottom line is it should be covered under the act. Okay, next question. If there is jurisdiction, who has authority to investigate?
This. That was my pen.
Because I was picking on you. I believe this one you can select. Change the.
Yeah, yeah.
Can somebody select?
I did it,
Brianna?
I did it.
Yeah, who selected her?
Two people.
She's gonna be so excited when we all, pick her. I knew you were gonna be here, so I had to So this may disappoint people. Brianna cannot investigate on this. So we have some that are saying Title IX coordinator, some saying campus police, conduct office. One person said none, no jurisdiction. And remember, this is authority to investigate. It's not your just investigation. So for those who say campus police, why do you say campus police?
But it's because it's crime that has been committed. I'm sorry. Campus police was one of my choices. But it's because a crime has been committed. Like that is a statutory crime.
In our scenario, though, law enforcement has not been contacted.
Okay.
Yeah, but technically could get in terms of it being if it were reported.
It is extortion.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's blackmail. And so that could be, yeah.
Right. All right, let's get at our next one. What immediate protective measures are offered? Be specific. If you don't know what a protective measure is, Monica's going to tell you really quickly.
A protective measure is something that so that the student can feel safer. So maybe change their class schedule, change their living situation, those types of things. So if they happen to live in the same dormitory as Taylor and don't feel like their state being near them, then the university can take protective steps to move them to another, or to move Taylor to another.
We have other people saying counseling, no contact, class accommodations. Somebody said none. I'd love more about why you chose none, not because sure none are offered, but anybody want to be brave enough to say why they chose none?
I actually chose none because I misread the question. I thought it said what protective measures were offered. And then when I looked at it again, it was too late to retract my answer. But I was like, nothing happened. I mean, it wasn't a formal report, right? So no, I didn't think no measures have been put in.
I mean,
But these are what can be put in.
like some of these questions now, you can assume like there's some knowledge of who this person, the survivors are. Let's see, change class schedule, change living situation, safety planning, counseling, administrative, no contact order. For those who were picking safety planning, what kind of safety planning would you be looking at? Like, how would you safety plan with this person?
I wrote safety planning. It's an individualized approach. You have multiple parties and their needs are going to be different. So in line with that, all of those things that everybody listed would be part of that. Because everyone's situation is going to be unique. That's extremely important. You have multiple parties, different experience.
Yeah, and based on this scenario with the digital component, what do you think would need to be emphasized in that type of safety plan? Safety planning with somebody who has been digitally like exploited. What kind of safety planning do you believe should be emphasized there? Mhm.
They have
Mhm. Yeah, and another thing, another part of the scenario was about somebody not being out and their sexual orientation. So if somebody had fear of being, outed and they were not publicly out because of their sexual orientation, what do you think would be very important as part of that safety plan? Anyone? Also, maybe some resources like from an LGBTQ organization who can navigate and have a conversation with somebody who may be, um, wanting to get ahead of maybe discussing what their sexuality is. And so having that sort of plan in place, somebody who could walk them through that. Uh, but also checking, to make sure that even though the person was recorded and things were shared, um, making sure that I guess like they have all social media protections in terms of being able to contact the person later on, doing a full assessment. Um, Sometimes people can take somebody else's device and share their location with that person and you don't know. So like doing a full audit of somebody's device. Um, Obviously, like we're talking about adults here, um, but most of us, we know all there is to investigating um, our digital, like our children's devices. So like doing like a full audit of who has their information. So going back to how quickly those measures are implemented, let's say like we have a reporting student. Um, how quickly do you think that they're implemented? Time frame wise?
What,
I don't know. We're our institution. Y'all tell us. Y'all don't have to write them in because how much time do I have? It was 10 minutes.
10 minutes.
Are there any, for the institution, I'll ask the question maybe a little bit different. So if someone does come to you and says, I have class with this person, I don't know if I want to follow Title IX criminal complaint, but the person has done something to me. They've assaulted me, they're stalking, they are digitally harassing me, whatever the case may be. Is there like a timeline that you guys operate on to like change their class schedule? I know a lot of the law says things like in a reasonable time frame. So what do y'all consider to be a reasonable time frame? I had this conversation with Title IX in Natchitoches about what's considered a reasonable timeline for them to contact the claimant and the respondent when law enforcement is doing an investigation. So my question is, if a student comes to you, not sure if they want to file a formal complaint, but is asking for some kind of concession, what is that reasonable time for you guys? Because I don't know the answer.
I'm gonna let Osvaldo answer that because he's dealing.
Absolutely, and I think that's a great question. It goes back to my prior response. I didn't write it depends, and I'm not an attorney, to your point, but it's very individualized. It depends on the circumstance. If they are taking a class within the next couple of hours, guess what? We're going to work through that very quickly. The other piece about filing a formal complaint, it needs to be taken into account because that also means disclosure, information, the parties that are involved. And by doing that, then you are automatically notifying the other party, the respondent in this. So therefore, you have to be mindful of that communication of how that is relayed. So I think back to safety planning, it's the very first thing. What is that immediate need? How can we get you to a good space? Because at the end of the day, we're here about student success. We want to make sure that students feel safe and and comfortable in that situation and helping them navigate through that and having that conversation depending what is going to work for you and then implement it accordingly.
Mhm.
So I know we're talking mostly about the survivor, the victims of the recording. But what's happening to Taylor? Who's reconciling that?
Right. Because here's the other thing, even if we don't have a complaining student, depending on the circumstances, there may be a way to investigate Taylor. If the threats are being made like on social media platforms while Taylor is logged into the internet of the institution, there could be ways to investigate Taylor. And I think that so often people believe we need to wait until a student files a complaint. But in this situation, there obviously there isn't been too much reported, but if there has been certain things that are become known, we can investigate Taylor without complaining witnesses. So I asked this question about when a student reports non-consensual recording and digital extortion, where do you refer them off campus? It says sexual assault center, law enforcement, other domestic violence program. And I kind of just want to explore a little bit about that because it's really important that you know the organizations that are in the service areas of your schools, because a lot of times if you're just referring people to programs that you may or may not know their eligibility requirements, you may or may not know their service area or what they can offer, it kind of puts somebody in a position where they could be turned away. So I was going to ask, like, do you know the organization's eligibility requirements? We don't have time for y'all to go through all of them. But just by a show for the institutions, do you know the organizations you are referring to? Do you know their eligibility requirements to receive services? No, thank you for being honest. And it's fine to not know, but I think it's really important because so often at STAR, we may get somebody who's calling from Ruston. That's not in our service area. We may get somebody who doesn't have we serve anyone who has experienced any kind of sexual trauma, and it's sexual trauma because that can include types of sexual trauma that are not contact related. But if somebody comes to us, they don't have a sexual trauma, it is domestic violence, but there was no sexual trauma, we are not going to be able to serve them. So it's just something I wanted y'all to think about. And then another thing is sometimes organizations don't serve males. I left all of the names gender neutral. Organizations should serve males, but if they are not a nonprofit that has any kind of federal funding or state funding, these organizations do exist where they rely solely on donations. I love to get with them about their fundraising game, but they do exist. So it's really important to be mindful of the type of organizations and who they are providing services to. Yes.
A little bit the difference between non-intimate partner violence and intimate partner violence. Differentiate the difference between DV and SA.
Yeah, I was going to get sort of that, but I'll jump to it. So for domestic violence can include sexual assault and sexual trauma as a component of what happens in a domestic violence relationship, but it's defined by the actual relationship. So usually it's an intimate, former intimate, or dating partner. Non-intimate partner sexual assault means, like STAR, we're a sexual assault center, we require a form of victimization for our eligibility requirements, not a relationship type. So as long as you've experienced sexual trauma, it doesn't matter who was your perpetrator. That is the requirement for us. And I think that sometimes people talk about domestic violence and sexual assault interchangeably, but they are different. So some of the sexual assault centers require physical sexual assault contact to receive services. You need to be careful about, sending somebody who has experienced image-based extortion because they may not be eligible. And then, are we referring students to services off campus where it's actually free? If you don't know that, then you need to know because not everyone can afford payment or even if they have insurance, maybe they don't want their parents to know or anything like that. I think it's just really important for everyone to be mindful of this. This is the big one. Is there a wait list? STAR, I can't even tell you what our wait list is right now. We are so severely understaffed. I can't even like measure it. So referring people to us without really putting in place like a plan, that's not going to be helpful. So I just wanted to emphasize that. And then also, is therapy time limited? Trauma doesn't expire. So there are organizations because they are trying to see as many survivors as possible based on the resources they have, they put limitations on therapy. STAR does not, but that's also why it's hard for us to get off a wait list. Obviously we have some limitations, but when I say, time limitations, some places you can only go for 6 sessions. What are you going to accomplish in 6 sessions to deal with sexual trauma? I don't know. Another big thing, please don't refer people to licensed or unlicensed people or those who are not trained in trauma-focused therapy. Trauma-focused therapy is what you need to have in order to be able to deal with this. We have survivors come to STAR all the time who say that they've been seeing a therapist for years and years, but by the time that they got to, they found out they needed to get into their sexual trauma, the therapist said, well, I have to terminate you now because I don't do this. And to use that language. So just be mindful of that. I have some other things I wanted us to talk about, like in terms of, are we collecting data on image-based exploitation? Do we track therapy and service wait times for survivors rather than just the timeframes for resolution? Do we audit for trauma-informed practices? And for policymakers, has the state prioritized funding for domestic violence program and sexual assault centers? Why or why not? Because people think we're funded, we are not. And then we were gonna emphasize the difference between the two of us. And let's see, the bottom line is I wanted us to really evaluate whether or not we are measuring compliance or impact in our response. And I think it's clear we are measuring compliance. That is not going to lead to healing and justice for survivors, no matter what we think. And so I was going to ask you all after we finish this, what barriers do you think exist? Who is at risk? Who is particularly vulnerable? And, this isn't a policy debate. It's not hypothetical. This is your campuses. This is your system. And, is there jurisdiction? Maybe, maybe not. Supportive measures exist, but does the system function in a way we assume it does? And so we often say barriers to reporting are fear or stigma, but what if the barrier is something so calculated, something that just we can fix? If eligibility is unclear, if therapy is capped or delayed, if funding does not match demand, if choosing not to report is informed. So are we measuring compliance or impact? And then are we counting cases or reducing harm? I think we're counting cases. We're not really measuring harm reduction. And I think it goes back to also the point that Senator Mizell made is that where's Taylor in all this? Even if we have survivors that don't want to come forward and get services, there still may be a way we can hold perpetrators accountable because, we can be here and check all the boxes, but if survivors are still navigating uncertainty, then, we're not accomplishing as much as we would like to think we are. So I guess that's it. I heard a bell.
Yes. And I want to thank you for this for me, very eye-opening exercise. I think it was great, and I like the way that you actually presented it. It was engaging. And to me, it highlighted a lot of things that I think we need to answer. And before you leave, I would just like before the students come up, what do we think are some of the barriers? I would like to see if those barriers are some of the things that the young people may actually mention or say what they agree with. So if any of y'all would like to chime in and state what you think some of the barriers are, I would like to hear that. We don't have any? Okay.
Can you hear me? My name's Emma Matthews from McNeese State University with Palmer. There. I first we want this better. I'm not using microphones. Everything you just hit, I was thinking about it. What kind of totally all of it. I've seen the impact we're making because I work in the Office of Fund Civility with Miss Youngblood, and our group up here.
I am struggling to hear you. Yeah, give it up, please.
Is this better?
Yes.
I'm not using microphones. Our whole student body up here, we're all with the It's On Us program that we're bringing, and we are tackling the 3 things that you've said. And I just finished my ethics program, and I forgot what the question was, but I just wanted to say everything you guys are hitting, I'm agreeing with, and I'm connecting it with the things I've seen on McNeese campus myself. And
The question was any potential barrier.
Oh, I feel like a barrier is definitely the gender bias difference between like what young women see in men, and trying to break down that barrier of, hey, say something. If you see something, it shouldn't matter what your friends say, or peer pressure. I've seen us breaking down that barrier myself. And any other barriers I feel like might be cultural differences. We have a lot of international students, maybe them adjusting to the difference in culture and making sure we reach them and have an understanding of we're trying to have safety for all students on campus.
This, you say the gender bias.
Mhm.
How does that display, I mean, I don't mean, in the interaction with male students, female. But how do you see how that displays itself when you're seeking assistance about a situation, or are you only seeing it like both genders?
I haven't had an experience myself. I was thinking more in general of, we just talked about it, of making sure we reach male students and having them be comfortable enough to step in if a situation is happening at, let's say, like an event, or even to report it. And I know we just have a good outreach with our athletics, and I saw myself, the young men and women, being very comfortable with our Title 9 coordinator, and even knowing what some of those things are, being like, oh yes, I remember your talk that you gave to us. Some of those events I'm not a part of, so I can't say from personal experience. I hope that answers. I can clear. Yes. Yes, sir. I've kind of studied the bystander effects. I'm a psychology major, so we touched on it. And so I know even more the importance of breaking down that effect with all students.
Okay, I think I have something to say too. I'm from McNeese. I'm with her as well. My name is Anaya. I think we should definitely, one of the barriers is like, it could be men, because I think a lot of girls can feel comfortable like coming and saying like, I don't feel comfortable, or I need to talk to someone. But I don't think we really push for it for men either, because we had a recent tabling actually, and the boys were kind of standoffish. They didn't really think that that was like a topic for them, or like something they can say, which really boys go through it too. You'd be really surprised, but they feel uncomfortable too. They could feel uncomfortable about women. They could be going through the same thing as girls are doing. So I think in a lot of our like events, our tablings, our trainings, we should put more things that show like men are included as well, or even people who don't go by male or female. Some people go by them. they're included as well in that category.
Sexual violence in different ways.
Mhm. And they never look at it the opposite way. So majority of the time, it's always men doing, but it's never like the opposite. Sometimes it's women. You're welcome.
Participant on the student panel, can you please come take a seat up at the table? Everybody get to the table.
Yes.
All right. So as our students get situated, I want to remind you all to grab the microphone as we talk with our introduction, so you all can hear from some of the student voices about their experience process, what that looks like on their campus. Let's start right here in the purple, and we're gonna go straight on down.
This way, can y'all hear me? Hi, everyone. My name is Danielle Gonzalez. I am from LSU. I'm a current graduate student. I'm in my last year getting my Master's of Education in Counseling, specifically school counseling, and I'm the current GA at the Office of Civil Rights and Title IX at LSU. And thank you for having us here today.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ayana Robinson. I am a senior at LSU. I'm a microbiology major on the pre-dental track, and I serve as the Chief of Staff for Student Government. Thank you so much for having us.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kyla Cambryce. I'm representing Baton Rouge Community College. I am a part of the Student Government Association, and I'm a general science major. I'm a sophomore. Thank y'all for having me.
Good, good morning, good afternoon, whatever time it is. My name is Pamela Williams. I am panelist member here on the panel, as well as the SGA executive president for the North Shore Technical Community College. And I am pleased to be here and see all you here, as well as some fellow class and other students.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Marina Chaiva. I'm here to represent Southeastern Louisiana University. I serve there as the student body president, and I also serve as the student member on the UL System Board of Supervisors. Thank you so much for having me here today.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Carmen Thornton. I am representing Southern University as well as the Southern University Law Center. I am a 3L part-time evening student, and I am just honored to be here today to talk with you all.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Cheyenne Palmer. I represent McNeese State University. I am a sophomore studying in natural resource conservation management. I am currently the impact lead for our new It's On Us chapter. Very nice to meet you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Landon Blush. I'm a sophomore from Baton Rouge, majoring in political science, and I'm here to represent Southern University System.
If you had to describe power-based violence, how I'm not really sure what happened. Can you describe that so that there's education on your campus talking about what is power-based?
I'll start. So for me, I was kind of introduced to it in undergrad, but I know that when I came to the law center, we had orientation and they implemented Title IX into the orientation. And so that's when I was more introduced to what it was. And they, made it important for us to know what Title IX was. To me, I would describe it as prohibiting gender-based discrimination on campus and education programs, as well as activities on campus.
I would further elaborate that when it's somebody who has power over somebody else. My role is a little bit different. So I am the GA for the Office of Civil Rights and Title IX, and a big part of my role is creating social media graphics for our Instagram. And there we try to describe what the difference is between Title IX and power-based violence, what the difference is between a formal report and just an incident report. And using social media, I feel like has honestly helped me learn what is the difference, but learning how to communicate what those things mean to students across our systems.
What school again?
LSU.
So when I think about power-based violence, I think of control. And when I think of control, it's usually carried out by someone who either seeks control or they are seeking to keep their control. And I find that a lot of our students may not know much about power-based violence unless they are maybe majoring in psychology or criminal justice. And so I feel like with our It's On Us program that we're starting, we are going to try to branch out and get our students more educated with all of our policies and systems.
I feel as though Title IX is like the more broader term. So I don't think that power base is more internalized. I think the term does need to be given more attention. But I just think that students know, oh, Title IX, we have a Title IX coordinator, and they just associate it with that.
Can we just ask questions? Because I'm losing my patience. I'm like, this is such an opportunity
Yeah.
for us to get to the reality of what campus life is like. I frankly don't care if you know about the difference between Title IX and power-based. What I care about is if you know, or you know other students on campus who have reported. What obstacles or barriers have they had to the reporting? Are you feeling that the campus is a place where you feel safe, and if you felt threatened, you know where to go? So that's what I want. And I don't mean to. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm watching the time, and I'm really like, okay, we've got.
I think outreach on every campus, correct me if I'm wrong, is an ongoing issue, especially having students know where to go, when to go, and who to talk to. However, on Southeastern and talking to students and talking to student organizations, I know that they are very well aware of our Title IX coordinators, of our counseling services, and every student organization that I have talked to feel very confident in when and where to reach out. If they encounter certain issues. As the student body president, one of my primary goals when I got elected into this position is having the student government be the branch that connects the faculty and the services that we have on campus to the student body. So we also participate and facilitate those resources and continuously put them out to students, whether it's through informational forums, whether it is through social media, but we also have town halls when students can come up and ask questions. And if they don't feel comfortable asking those questions in person, they can report them through our anonymous Google form that will be answered not only by other students, but by our faculty staff as well.
To add on to what she was saying, I feel like it's a bit. I'm gonna use the word federal. They call it. We call it federal. I feel like the whole process seems a bit intimidating, in that, oh, I'm going through this, and I feel like I'm snitching on somebody, or maybe I feel like it's a little bit intimidating. The process is a little intimidating. I think that maybe we can implement some way to make the form available on a student page, so the Southern page or the UL systems page, and a way that they can get in contact with the direct Title IX coordinators without actually having to go up to the place first, if that's how it is already.
guess going off of Landon's comment, it is intimidating, but as the GA, so at LSU, we have the Division of Engagement, and the Office of Civil Rights falls under that. I, along with the GAs of the centers of the engagement centers at LSU, we table a lot as a division. And I feel like that helps the Office of Civil Rights seem more human because we're with the centers, like the Women's Center, the LGBTQ plus center, the AACC, and the Intercultural Center. And I feel like that has impacted the way that students can approach the office. It is a legal process. Like Title IX is a legal process, but showing up and being in front of students, engaging with students in a way that isn't so intimidating can make it a little bit more comfortable to show up and to report when they need to. Yes, ma'am.
Although they were reporting, what do you attribute that?
I think we talked about this a little bit. It is an individualized process. Sometimes people are not ready. And with my background in counseling, it is re-traumatizing. Like it can be re-traumatizing to go and to have to speak about what has happened to you. But on LSU's campus, we have confidential supporters who are trained staff, and you can go to them. And that doesn't mean that a report's going to happen. You can go to Lighthouse, which is another free confidential service. I don't know if that's the reason, but there are other confidential means on campus to discuss the things that have happened to you without having to go to Title IX and make a report if that's what you choose to do. But I don't know if that's why people aren't going.
I guess I'm following along with
Mhm.
what you said. If you were, think that you were comfortable if you were paid some type of way that they could reach out rather than trying to figure out where the Title IX office is or where your office is or where somebody else's office is.
I believe that.
But I'm just basing
Yeah.
it up.
I believe at LSU you can report online. You can go to the office, but you don't have to, from my understanding. So I think that's also another way without having to walk into Himes. But the Title IX office is located in Himes, which is also the testing center. So it's not like you're just walking into the Title IX office and everybody knows that that's where you're going. That's not necessarily the case.
Say that again?
But it's also the what?
The testing center, it's located in Himes Hall. So it's where students go and take their finals or midterm test.
I may just want your apology or I want to report it and not. So we that sometimes when we can't do like this on the numbers, maybe a different process where students want on the process, they have students on campus for another 3 years. So they kind of feel like things like this that still makes it first campus. Let's say we have a soft campus, some people are very common on college campuses. I just want them to stop it. I may see them for another 2.5 years on campus. So I'm okay with that. I just don't. So then from a resolution, they happen where that person agrees, they apologize, they agree to stop the text message. So we want to make sure that we acknowledge around making sure all of our know that they can file online reports 5 years in, so that all of our aware that we go online.
So the online report is directly to the Title IX office or, okay, but the thought that I thought you shared was that just to make it on the student page where it wasn't going to the Title IX. But before I let you go, when you mentioned Lighthouse and the confidential advisor, are those reports going to Title IX? Are those forwarded or are those isolated?
So those are confidential. So if a student
Lighthouse, so the Lighthouse isn't, y'all don't share information. Right, yeah, I remember that.
Is that of the victim? Is that for the victim primarily? Okay. So I want to talk a little bit about the perpetrator, because are any actions taken with that particular individual, even though it is confidential? Mhm, mhm, mhm.
And that's important that nothing, and I understand where you're going with that, but Raphael and Morgan can maybe back me up on this. So it's important that the victim feels like that they have an avenue to talk to someone, to talk through what is going on without there being any repercussions, even on the perpetrator. Because it's not the victim's fault. It's not the victim's responsibility to stop the perpetrator. And so, because if you put that onus on the victim, then it hurts their recovery and hurts the possibility of them possibly coming forward. That's why our confidential advisors are so important. I will say too, one quick thing is one of the things that is different for campus law enforcement than municipal law enforcement is that campus law enforcement is not confidential advisors. Campus law enforcement are responsible employees, where municipal police officers. So if you report to Baton Rouge PD, if you go to LSU, just because we're sitting here, I'm gonna use that example. If you go to Baton Rouge PD and tell them and report something happened to you, they have an MOU with the university. But that victim can say, I don't want the university to know, and they won't necessarily report it back to Title IX. But if you go to campus police must report to Title IX. And so that's a conversation that we have all the time with campus police officers, because where Baton Rouge police are employees of Baton Rouge Police Department, LSU Police Department employees are employees of LSU University, not of LSU. It's a very different, sort of situation. And another thing I do tell, which speaks to the question, somebody had a thing about stalking and talked about what I think Allison brought that up. One of the things I tell campus police officers all the time, because one of the things, if I told you guys as students, if I said, you're going to go to jail, you have a concept of what that means. But if I say, you're going to get kicked out of school because of your actions, which one of them has a stronger connotation to you? Do you have a concept of what jail is? Do you have a concept of what getting kicked out of school is? Do you see the difference there? And that's something that we see all the time with students. They don't have a concept of, I'm going to go to jail. My parents are going to make sure I don't go to jail. That's fine. My parents are going to make sure I don't go to jail. But I'm going to get kicked out of school. I'm going to have to tell my parents I got kicked out of school. That's a much bigger threat to them. And so one of the things that university police have that's a tool that municipal police officers don't have is that conversation. Leave that person alone. They don't want to go out with you. If you keep going after them, I'm going to have to arrest you and let Title IX know, and we're going to have to kick you off of campus. And you're not going to be able to go to another school because it's going to be on your time. Municipal police are going to say what? Come back when they actually do something.
So following back up on my train of thought, and I do understand the confidentiality, I just want to say this. Oftentimes, those individuals who are perpetrators, that's not their first time. And if there's no intervention, they're not going to quit. And I don't know exactly how we fix that, right, just at this moment, but I do want that to be taken into consideration. What comes to my memory is when we first had our first set of hearings, and that a student that I met that I will never forget at LSU, who said she regrets the day that she ever spoke up and said anything. It was the worst day in her life. And she said that she thinks that she would not finish school because there was no true intervention for her. So I want to ask each of you, have any of you had the opportunity to walk through any situations yourself or with someone else as it relates to this? Have you witnessed it firsthand, either personally or with someone else?
I can speak a little bit to this. I have had students come up to me after in student government. I announced that I would be attending this panel, and I said I was very happy to speak with any students who had anything that they'd want me to bring up. And a lot of students came up to me and they said that they've had experiences. And I think the biggest barrier comes down to exposure and awareness, because these students didn't even realize that Title IX was an option for them. They, like, when they think of Title IX, they think of athletes, coaching situations, or when they think of power-based violence, it's, oh, a professor did something to me. They're not thinking of student-to-student interactions, so they don't even realize that the university is an avenue or a resource for them. So their first thought is law enforcement. I have to go to law enforcement, and then they're thinking, I don't have sufficient evidence, so nothing is going to happen. I'm not going to be believed. And then that's where the case is dropped. And then they're not thinking of university resources like therapy or counseling. So they're pretty much left to deal with this situation on their own because they don't realize that there are any resources out there for them.
I think to talk more about communication and communication of that on campus is, I think there needs to be some sort of continuous communication, because a lot of students do not realize that it could happen to them until it happens. And having a thing that doesn't let you register until you complete it, I will say a lot of students will look at the scroll bar and say, I agree with whatever it is, and go on and registering their classes. So having a constant form of communication, sending out to students, because I don't believe some of them will pay attention until it happens to them, or until they see that situation firsthand, whether it's themselves or someone else. So I believe that is very important for each university to have that consistent communication with their student body.
Do you have an idea of what that looks
The communication has been an issue on all of our campuses, and I believe that there's so many multitude of resources, and one doesn't hurt the other. We have constant take notes, which goes to the student email, but we also have social medias. The university has its own social media platform. Several student government has their own social media platform. So really engaging with those social media platforms will reach that type of students. You also have forums like town halls that are created by our student government for other students. Having a slide or some sort of presentation at that town hall would also benefit the students. So just attempting to utilize any sort of communication to reach the most student possible, because no one sort of communication will work for every single student. However, I think utilizing students as advocates and really empowering students to have the ability to give other students notice of where to go for those resources, and really engaging those student groups is going to be the best bet to kind of spread the communication, because communication from student to student looks a lot different than communication from faculty to student. I think student to student, students will listen to students. Students get advice from students. So if you have a student that finds themselves in a situation, who do you think they're going to turn to first? I think they're going to turn to their friends. And that is how I feel we can embody and make sure that each student gets that information and knows that.
So I would like to add on to what a lot of things have been said. And I feel like, kind of like how Landon said, that there's an intimidation around reporting. I feel that this comes from a lack of understanding. We are told everything mostly through the orientation at the very beginning of our freshman semester. And that is a lot of information that we are being told all at once. We maybe remember bits and pieces of maybe that 2 or 3 days of information. Like we were told of a lot of resources like our counseling center. I remember that we have one, but I don't remember where it is. Or I don't remember the email to the people that I would need to get in contact to. I don't remember so-and-so's name. I don't remember every single resource. I'm not going to be able to remember every little thing that was presented to us. So I feel like it's important that we start implementing things that are going on throughout the school year. As there are also emails that are sent out, but it is kind of joked about among the students that nobody reads them. So just to maybe like kind of like the It's On Us program to get students to see, oh, who's that tabling in the quad? Oh, who's that in the pair ballroom with a whole event set up for them to go and wander in and start learning about everything that we are doing.
I think we all notice that. I mean, think about it. We all like when you buy your car, you've never seen one like it until you have it. And then it's like everybody drives the same car you have, right? And I think a lot of times you could, this is the really tough part, I think, for campuses is that you could have tabling, you could have emails, you could have signs, you could have everything. But students, the majority of students are going to walk through every single day and never see it. So my question is, I think that's why it's so important to put so much emphasis on the information on demand. Like when it does happen, right? When I'm the student that thinks that's never going to happen to me, I don't pay attention to anything. I go to class, I go home, I go out, whatever. When it does happen, how easy is it at that moment? Like the collateral that comes from the Title IX department, how easy is it to read? How easy is it to navigate from somebody who's a junior that doesn't remember it since their freshman orientation, right? And we're blessed to have y'all here because y'all are like super involved and y'all are like creme de la creme students, right? But there's a lot of them out there, 90% that are just going to class and barely making it and just living day to day.
Well, coming back to my point of having no specific one way of communication benefiting every single student. Obviously, you have students that do read emails, right? That do go through their emails and they want that inbox be at 0. However, there's other students that are heavily in social media students. They will focus on social media. So making social media posts that spread awareness to students is very important. There's also the school website. Making it available on the school website is important. I think it wouldn't hurt putting it on every single avenue that the university has, even putting it within your syllabus to where if a student is reading through the syllabus and it catches their eye, now it's something else that if that happens to them, they can remember, oh, I've read this in one of every single syllabus I've seen. Having it, the more avenues you put it on, the more likely is that a student will find it when they need it.
Let me ask y'all this as students. So we just started at La Fossa. A couple years back, we started a text chat line because, it's more anonymity to it, right? If it was a student could just text a confidential advisor, right? Like, and that might be in place right now. I don't know. Where they know that if they don't have to like ask around and find out who the confidential advisor is. It's just text this number and you will automatically be put in touch with the confidential.
So for McNeese State University, we actually do have a app where we have that confidential text line that goes straight to our McNeese Police Station. And that can also be forwarded to our Title IX director, and they can also direct them to where they would need to go. That app has a lot of different features that allows them to call anonymously text, or even text with the person on the other side knowing who you are.
At Southeastern, we also have text. It's called Roomie. Roomie texts us. I think it's like once every other month or every month. And I think that has been the most beneficial thing to students because the Roomie texts are very general. It is, how are you doing in school? Are you ready for midterms? How are your finals coming along? Do you think you'll be back next year? And I think that is a great avenue for that student who is genuinely struggling to express their feelings through there. And it also goes directly to our UPD.
We also have an app similar to that called Schmoody. So basically you can ask it specific questions, or sometimes it will send you notifications checking on you, which I also find is very helpful in the similar ways.
It seems like everything is digital. One of the things, maybe it's my age, but what I do like is what I have seen as it relates to the traffic, right? So in the restrooms, and I've seen this in several restrooms lately, where there's poster boards saying, do you know what human trafficking is? Do you suspect human trafficking? This is the number you can call. Do y'all think something of that magnitude may be effective where you can actually have something up that says, something that talks about power-based violence, where do you go if you think you need help?
I feel like it could be very beneficial as there's a lot of students that, again, kind of like he has said, that kind of just go home, come back, and just to have something that might catch their eye and get their attention can change maybe even their lives as they've gone through thinking that they didn't have a way to report these things, or just even giving them a little bit of more of an understanding of the process.
I think that's a place where I know our organization could probably work much better with university. I mean, we have mirror clings that have QR codes to get 800 help, text chat help, and we could probably work better together if universities are open to putting those in the restrooms, right? I mean, they're just winging the window. Mirror clings, we have them in bars, we have them, all over.
And also, I was also suggest even adding that onto the Moodle or Canvas so that when students log in to do their assignments, that's automatically an advertisement consistently along with your announcement saying, hey, or are you struggling with this or have this happened to you? This is who you contact. This is your Title IX coordinator. And I also want to say inclusive to that is also maybe a student navigator or a student advocate. So when you get those reports, they automatically be tied into a student navigator that will walk them and guide them every step of the way. As Landon said, sometimes these processes are intimidating and they may not know who to talk to. So making that automatic connections when they use Roomy or when they have those text messages sent out, that a student navigator helps them along the way and also ties them into the actual coordinator for that department.
Another thing that we did on our campus when we pushed the mental health initiative in the beginning of the year is we had bracelets with the counseling office's phone number on them. And students absolutely love wearing bracelets or any memorabilia. So I think spreading it through, like spreading that type of awareness, whether it is bracelets, whether it's sunglasses, or giving something physical to students, because I know tabling has been out, but like making it an interactive experience for students is going to make a difference from a student not knowing the resource and a student being like, oh, I remember getting this bracelet, getting this thing from the tabling and having it in their dorm or having it in their
Absolutely.
We're still in the planning process, but we do a march. I believe this year it's going to be on the last day of March with Lighthouse. And then following the march will be the kickoff for SAM. And we'll bring a lot of community partners as well as LSU partners, because as we've been talking about, sometimes students don't want to report to the university, and that's their own choice. At the end of the day, the student has the choice. So bringing in community partners, some students may feel more comfortable going to somewhere in the community. So we're going to have the kickoff, and then we'll celebrate Denim Day, which is at the end of April. I believe we're going to have some events, tabling events. So just being aware, but also working with other partners on campus and within our division.
So McNeese usually does have a Wear Denim Day where everyone in the quad goes and will sign like one big poster, and we'll write note cards and whatnot for words of affirmation for survivors and whatnot. So I believe we will be doing that again this year.
Does everybody know what Denim Day is? Is everybody aware what Denim Day?
We do it here.
So only 2 of the universities responded. The rest of you guys are not sure y'all have to do or do an event or.
No, we absolutely, SJ will be doing a marketing campaign. The university always does a marketing campaign, and then there's several student organizations that will be participating and actively tabling or holding events for that.
Yes, thank you so much.
Always good to hear, legislate, all the time, so we can, usually it's just around this. I might miss it. So I thank you guys. Very- outside.
Before dismiss all of you though, I would like to see if y'all would have a 30-second soundbite, like leave. Because we're getting ready to go into 2020 session. And your response are very important to us, especially myself and Senator Martell, because we are termed out. And when we started this,
I knew you were gonna work that into the conversation.
you know I have to, right? We want to make sure that we found this much better than, we want to leave it better than we found it. And I was excited to see the part that stated year of the progress that we've made. And we have made a lot of great strides. But Morgan Lamondre, to me, really showed a lot of gaping holes. And even in listening to your conversation today, has left me with some concern. So I would like to give each one of you guys 30 seconds to give us something to consider or keep in mind for this upcoming legislative session. And again, thank you. We're gonna start with you, young man.
I would just say, keep in mind the bill that Phillips drafted, or they drafted, the one about the deep fakes, the unlawful deep fakes. They keep it in mind. We had that conversation last time, and it's a bunch of different ways that this thing is going to change, especially with the technology being how it is. And you saw the lady pulled it up, put me in a library, and he did it. So you can only imagine the images that they can put out. Keep it in mind.
So I would like for you guys to keep in mind the effects on the students, as everything is it's not an easy process. It's not something that's like a 3-step program and it's fixed. A lot of these processes can end up being a lifelong process for these students, and I would like that to be taken into consideration.
I would have to agree with that. I would just focus on the perspective of the student, put yourself in the student's shoes, and trust their process along the way. I know it's really hard, even as me, as a law student. There are adults that might be going through this as well at the law center. So it could be any type of student. So just put your perspective in the student's shoes and just go from there.
Well, I want to thank you all for the work you have done for the students. I definitely do think that the student body appreciates the resources that they have now. I do want to stress the importance of the university communicating with the student body in more than one way, because I know universities can say that, oh, well, we sent out an email, we require them to complete this course. I do believe not one form communication fits all students, and I do want to preface that each students are different. Our universities are very diverse within their student body, and communication of that impending legislation and those changes is very important to the student body. Thank you.
Say that to keep in mind the mandated state training for freshmen that come onto campus. Keeping that training in mind to make that mandatory, and also to remember that your voice, your decision, every time you walk into the room with whether you're representatives or senators, before you make that decision, think about the student before that decision has occurred. Like, how will this decision impact one student? How would it put your own children or grandchildren who may be on a college campus? How will my decision and make that decision important?
I will also agree to put yourself in the student's shoes. People are fighting different battles every day, so what works for some may not work for others. So I'll just take that into account.
I would emphasize how important repetition is. I know being in your position, you feel like you're fighting for this constantly and you're saying the same things over and over again. And it's really important because somebody may walk into a room and they've never heard it before, along with what you said on the same vein of mandated trainings. I think at LSU, every organization, you have to take a mandated hazing prevention training every year that you're a part of the organization. So I've had to do it 4 times. I think Title IX and power-based violence should be taken just as seriously. So making sure that it's not an option and that people have to consider it.
Today we looked at some numbers, and numbers are important, but those numbers represent real students and real people. And we're 8 students who are sharing our experiences, but they don't generalize to all students within all of these systems. So keep asking students, reaching out to them, because students are willing to share if they are asked.
Great. Thank y'all so very much. And I will let you know that we may be calling upon actually testify in a minute. Y'all willing to come and bring some guests with you? But thank y'all so very much. Let's give them a hand of applause. Oh,
I just wanted to ask real quick, just by show of hands, I don't want to get this going any farther. Who thinks that red zone awareness is a good campaign?
you say red zone?
Red zone awareness, so between when students start and Thanksgiving is when 50% of all sexual assaults normally occur. So there's a program called Red Zone Awareness where it's a big push for students to be aware on campuses. I was just wondering if it's effective on, yes.
I want to say with that, something that we have talked about in the office is pairing red zone with football. Like, make it engaging. We did game day for change at LSU, tabling in a way that's engaging and aligns with the time. Red zone is really important to talk about because the numbers are there, but make it engaging for students. Just don't talk about it, but somehow combine it with football and do a tabling event, something that's fun for the students. But it is important.
Thank you.
Red zone is something that it's much more broadly spaced throughout on the campus. A lot of the freshmen, the first year experience, that kind of office, they deal a lot with that because also the other hat I wear is the substance use prevention, and it comes up a lot. A lot of times with alcohol poisoning, overdose, those kind of things tend to occur within those weeks. So that is something that is already pretty widely spread throughout multiple departments. So first year experience, campus life, those kind of departments also work usually with Title IX on spreading the message about what's going on.
But I'm trying to, I get it that it's proven that that's the most dangerous time of all. But like, what are you telling them to do?
It's just heightened awareness, trying to make sure that they understand to be safe, awareness of where to go if they need help. It's and also that's why we do like tailgates at different football games to put information out there.
Just so that there's a heightened awareness, not of, because I'm, so much of that, I don't know how you, the actual incident, I don't know how you get. But so you're trying to make sure that they have the information for their response. I'm sorry.
It's kind of like at home, if home football games for LSU is a big thing. Like we sometimes set up a tailgate, or during Mardi Gras, there's greater incidents of, there's certain hot periods, red zones of when there's more cases, more attacks, and that's why we emphasize the red zone time is a heightened time to educate.
A lot of that coincides with years of substance. So that is one of the contributing factors for over half of sexual assaults that occur on campus have the presence of substance. So one of those times, so Mardi Gras, tailgate, football season, those kinds of things. So that is a holistic approach.
Just the party atmosphere.
Yes,
is considered a red zone.
Some people send in inhibition. Now I'll turn it back over to Senator Barrow for public.
Well, again, I want to thank each of you, and let's give them a hand of applause. You guys have done a job today. And I did take notes, so I can keep all of those things in mind. At this time, guys, we do have to transition very quickly. We are within a very tight timeline. All of our bills, many of y'all know that, have to be submitted by next week. Session starts in about 2 weeks. by the end of, okay, next week. Wait, this week? Oh, yeah.
I got you.
Today, Monday?
Yeah, but it's Monday.
Yeah, please forgive me. My dad has been in the hospital. My life has been upside down. Okay, so today is Monday. So it was all bills are due this week. By the end, as a matter of fact, we have to actually give them to staff by tomorrow in order for them to be considered by the end of this week. The session starts in 2 weeks. So we are really under the gun. And we do have proposed legislation that we're going to introduce for this upcoming session. And again, as I stated, we will be calling because we need to hear your voice. You only have a small snippet of us in here. There's 144 of us. Y'all only have 4. So we need to make sure that your voice is up. But with that said, guys, I don't think there are any additional public. Are there?
I know session is coming, so we're gonna probably start our meetings, but I
Yes.
wanna really encourage us to have meetings throughout the state at institutions where students can come very freely. And I think as great, thank you for coming, but we're not seeing all the representation of students. And we're seeing people who are very active and engaged, and it doesn't really paint the full picture of everything. So you're smiling, you're already thinking that, I'm guessing, but
Literally.
She was listening to our conversation.
I wasn't.
No,
I
I'm just kidding. I
wasn't,
know.
but, I do appreciate all of this, but I think, again, the people who know, who are very involved as a GA, you're gonna know, I hope you know, more than anyone else. So, I think it would be helpful, accessible, and even if that means us going Ruston, I think we have to do it to get everything to have student voices that are representative of.
We totally agree. We just had that conversation a few minutes ago, and by show of hands, will you guys be open to that during the interim to actually do that? All right. All right, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved by Representative Marcel, second by Senator Mizell. All in favor say A. Any opposed? All right. Thank y'all so very much. Please know that this will be a continuation upon the adjournment of session of sine die. But in the interim, there may be scheduled meetings to go to public campuses.
Can I have all students, even if you were participating or you were observing to the center, especially to the legislators?
You know, get by themselves or something.
All students, of course.
All students? I'm taking, let's take a picture first and then a picture without us first. Yeah, first.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I already take. I'm not in date. That's okay. All right. Oh, you know.
Yeah, so let's
About every-
guys.
No.
Hey, you guys? Got my phone back there.